On the way with EHOME and IG. Let's meet the first team that will be playing this match.
King J, Beijing, China.
蓝姆，北京 China。
呆，北京 China。
PCT, 北京 China.
QQQ, 北京 China.
EHOME ready to go up against IG, but are they really ready? I kind of feel that actually IG might be a little bit tilted, if you can say that, or kind of buckled under the pressure of Na'Vi game. So do you think EHOME are looking to capitalize? Because they just came off a big win.
I think IG has too much experience to sort of get emotionally unstable over a loss like that. I mean, even after losing Game 2 versus Na'Vi, they came back firing Game 3 where we had that epic match. And I mean, they'll dig deep. They'll find something in them, and I think they do have the star team with the experience needed to beat EHOME.
My real question is EHOME going to continue to pick the Wisp Tiny? Are they going to go back to the well one more time?
Yeah, well, we'll find out when they go to the bans and picks, but for the moment, let's meet IG.
Chuan, KL Malaysia.
Faith, Jiang, China.
Ferrari, Wuhan, China.
YYF, Shanghai China.
周，湖南 China.
So then IG, Ferrari, still in the tournament, still can make it to the grand finals with his team, but they're all star players here, guys. What have you got to say?
It's not just Ferrari. I mean, I think it's something we've hyped on, maybe even a bit too much.
Yeah.
We are faulty humans as well. But Chuan and Faith, the two support players, Chuan generally plays their jungle role, Faith in the 5 position. They played a fantastic tournament as well. Faith actually on my fantasy league team has racked me up a heap of points.
Yeah, Faith's on mine as well. The real question for me, are they going to pick Luna again? We've seen a whole lot of Luna picks out of IG, so both of these teams have used a strategy repeatedly through the international, but now you got one game. Are you going to do it again?
Yeah, well, EHOME versus IG coming up in a moment. What are they going to pick, Bruno?
Well, we've run through those teams so many times that I'm running out of statistics. So I try to find their mediocre heroes, those that are not too good, not too bad. And guess what I found? 7-6 Morphling for IG and 9-10 Morphling for EHOME. So this will be the battle of the mediocre Morphlings.
And Morphling's actually still in the pool. They've only done 6 bans so far. So
Oh,
we'll quickly do some predictions in terms of who's going to win and why. Start with Nebula.
I picked IG to win at the start of the tournament. I got to stick with them despite my... actually, forget it. EHOME. I'm picking EHOME.
Okay.
I'm glad you picked EHOME because I love to disagree with Nebula, so I'm going to say IG because I was going to say IG anyways, but now I'm happier about it.
Okay, a less bipolar opinion from the Bruno at the end.
Whoever doesn't pick Morphling.
Whoever doesn't pick Morphling's going to win. All right, well, maybe we'll see someone pick Naga Siren. Wouldn't that be interesting?
Man, are you magical?
No, it's in-game. And that's where you're going as well, guys. So it's going to be then, of course, EHOME versus IG. Best of luck in the best of 1.
And we've got 2 games already in the books, 2 more coming your way here in the lower bracket of the International. One of those teams already prevailed once this evening, and they're already back out on the stage fighting tooth and nail to extend their chances here at the International. Draskell, EHOME impressed the heck out of me whenever you're talking about their performance last time around, but now they're up against a powerhouse, but they're going to have a little bit of help. They've got Naga Siren that managed to slip through the bans so far. Morphling and Leshrac picked up by IG.
Naga Siren making it through the pool, but we have seen today apparently some teams have the answer for that and heroes like Juggernaut. So apparently if you want to beat Naga Siren, of course, that is Na'Vi played exceptionally well that game, of course. But I mean, Naga Siren's always going to be a hero you have to worry about. You have to worry about the sleep, especially once you get to around level 16. It's 60-second cooldown. It can counter-initiate. It can initiate for you. It can stop pretty much anything that you want it to. And EHOME also, unfortunately, going to have their very, very nice tiny band out here by IG. And I think out of all the bands this tournament, that has got to be one of the biggest respect bands I think I've ever seen. But we're going to see a Morphling Leshrac too from IG. And I mean, Morphling's been seen pretty much every game, so I can't really say I'm surprised.
Well, the one thing that Invictus Gaming has going for them is Tidehunter is still available. And when you're talking about trying to find a counter to Naga Siren, a really well-played Tidehunter, so far as how Naga's going to want to just wander into these groups of heroes, put them to sleep, allow the rest of her team to get ready and in position. That can amount to basically setting up a Ravage if you have a Tidehunter that can play passive at the right moments, get an early blink, and then counter-initiate the Naga Siren. Enigma, however, complicates things. Going to be looking to set up black holes with Naga Siren and Veno's ult as well, not to mention what Veno brings to your laning phase. Same can be said for IG, however. Leshrac, as strong a laner as it comes, versatile as it comes, and speaking of strong, if not so versatile, Broodmother going to round out the first 3 for IG.
Brood just forces a little bit of an awkward laning phase right now for EHOME. They have an Enigma already, regardless of whether he jungles or he long lanes. He's not really great against a Broodmother in most situations. Venomancer doesn't really have any counter push either. Naga Siren, aside from Riptide, can't really deal with it too well. So IG just trying to get the better of the laning phase. What I really do like about EHOME's lineup, though, is they did pick one of the only heroes that can actually overlap his ultimate and guarantee that you're going to get caught in that sleep combination, because as we saw when Na'Vi played against Naga Siren, because there's a delay between when the Ravage hits and when the Naga Siren ult is actually out, you can do things like Blink, Force Staff, BKB after the sleep wears off in time to make sure that you don't get caught out by that combination, which is why I think EHOME has taken Enigma in his stead. But you can still take Tidehunter for counter initiation if you're IG in the situation, depending on what you want to do.
Yeah, the Tide, I would be really surprised to see him survive the ban phase, especially given what IG already has. They've got their dedicated long laner. They're going to have their Morphling. Yep, there goes the Tide. It's actually IG that bans Tide out, not EHOME. So a little surprise there. Night Stalker going to be taken out by EHOME. Makes sense. He's got one of the longest duration silences when Night is up, so you don't want to have to deal with him, not to mention just how strong he is one-on-one and throughout the early and especially mid-game stages if he gets off to a really solid start. So IG and EHOME again fighting for their chance at the $1 million grand prize, and they're down against the wall. They're down in the basement, unfortunately, looking to crawl their way back up. IG, who we saw lose earlier, is as strong a team as you're going to find in the field. IG favored by many to go all the way through the winner's bracket. Unfortunately, wasn't the case. Now they're going to have to get past EHOME, and EHOME, a team that many have slept on as well. EHOME, a name, of course, EHOME has performed well in the past, to say the least. But coming in, they were considered one of the least strong Asian teams in the field. But they've made it this far, and they're one win away from prolonging their career here at TI2 at least 24 more hours.
You know what really the cool thing is about being EHOME in this situation is the fact that IG is so scared of your Tiny that you get a Naga Siren for it. I mean, you can't really be happier with that kind of a situation. The last ban out is actually going to be Sand King. The one thing that EHOME lacks at the moment, of course, besides having 2 more heroes, is their early game isn't really that great. I mean, they have a Venomancer who's more of a defensive pick. Gale is great. Plague Words are great. Once he gets 6, he'll be able to partner his ultimate with Naga Siren and Enigma relatively easily. But as a support in general against a Morphling, he kind of falls off really fast. You don't really want sustain damage against a Morphling. You want high burst, or, I mean, in some cases, just a Tiny with like 750 GPM, but they're not going to have it for this game. And EHOME's still looking pretty strong, though. They're going to look for at least another support, I believe, and a mid to round it out. But again, that Broodmother kind of throws a wrench into things because of the fact that the Tide was banned out and the Sand King. Of course, Tide could have been picked up by EHOME or IG. Both teams could have run it. It's more so the fact that they wanted to make sure that Brood could have a lane pretty much for free. Those 2 heroes counter here pretty heavily. Anchor Smash is great. Caustic is great against her. They're really looking to win the early game and win it hard.
When you're talking about supports that can work against the Broodmother, there are still a number left in the pool, of course. You've got Windrunner. She's going to be there. Even a Lena pick could serve 2 of those purposes you just outlined, Draskell. The burst damage you want to have against a Morphling, as well as a follow-up that'll fit in well with Naga Siren. They're going to go with Storm Spirit. Storm Spirit gets the crowd here active, ready to see how he's going to do. Now, we've seen how that hero in particular matches up against Brood. Not too well, so they still don't have the answer to that. Chaos Knight, the follow-up pick from IG.
I'm pretty sure it was EHOME, actually, themselves who ran Storm against Broodmother before, and he does okay. If you max out Remnant, it scales relatively well in terms of mana cost towards how much damage it does. You can keep the spiders at bay, but eventually, if it's just a 1v1, Broodmother will overrun you. That's really going to be the problem. They're going to have to address her at some point, but it does buy him a little bit of time. Storm's going to be able to get his early game levels, and that also gives them even more initiation range, not to mention the way that Remnants work with the Naga Sleep in conjunction with what EHOME's already bringing to the table in terms of team fight. And they're going to go ahead and round it out with a Chen, so I'm pretty sure we're going to be seeing either a long lane Enigma or maybe even a mid Enigma, but depends on who they want to go against the Brood.
Yeah, at this stage, you almost have to assume it's the Storm Spirit, and they're just going to have to bank on the fact that they're going to do well enough in their other lanes to get help up there whenever it's needed the most. Maybe even concede the Tier 1 if you have to. The problem with doing that is then that opens up your own jungle for the Brood to farm and farm and farm, and we've seen how devastating that can be many, many times. On IG side, Chaos Knight, that terror of the mid game, and a guy who has massive damage output in the late game as well. Usually known more, and especially throughout the international and the qualifiers, Chaos Knight was a hero. A lot of people opted to build Vanguard and then BKB and build these very mid-game centric items as opposed to trying to arc him through, get him the BKB early, then get him some big money item right afterwards. Hasn't been the case in a lot of cases now, and Ferrari 430 is going to be running on our Brood. Shadow Shaman rounds out the lineup for Invictus Gaming. Both of these teams, again, down to their last breath. And crowd, give them a hand for coming this far, for playing this late, for being up and showing us what world-class Dota looks like. Let's run through our lineups as quickly as we can. QQQ going to be handling our Chen. Enigma going to be played by King J. Lanham playing our Naga Siren. I'm still so locked in, and just anytime I see Lanham, I think, oh, that's a big tiny. That's all I think anytime I see his name now. Veno, played by Cat, and Storm Spirit, played by X. On the other side of the river, Faith, going to be playing our Shadow Shaman. Morphling, going to be handled by Zoe. Brood, played by Ferrari 430. CK, going to be played by YYF. And Leshrac, played by Chuan.
Looks like we might have a potential level 1 engagement. I honestly got to say that I think that EHOME is going to do a little bit better here because of the fact that they are running with a Brood, and Gale is very strong. And I don't know if IG wants to do this. It looks like they do, though.
IG moves in. You got CK leading the way. First point in Chaos Bolt. Lanham almost looks like he's baiting this a bit. He stutter-stepped a little. Now they are going to go ahead and scatter. IG forcing the issue. Chuan's going to break north. Now the rest of his team's going to head that way as well. They're going to drop a ward. And it looks like, yep, we're going to escape. The horn blows, and we're underway with no blood in the soil yet.
So from what it looks like so far, they're actually not going to put the Storm against the Brood. Probably just going to be a dual lane of the Naga Siren and the Venomancer going up against that Brood in the long lane. It's going to be played by Ferrari, so of course he's going to be doing exceptionally well on that. Middle, it's just going to be, I guess, a mid-Storm taking on, at the moment, Chuan, who's going to be playing on Leshrac.
Chuan setting up shop here, and CK's going to be here as well. So we're going to have a duo mid taking on Just X handling our Storm Spirit. Now, CK, we've seen in a number of situations, what tends to happen is he's going to get his farm. He's going to suffer a bit in levels, of course, from where it's not a true dedicated tri-lane and he's not absorbing quite as much experience. But when we see this, a lot of the times it means he's going to be looking for a bit more of a late-game-oriented approach. Doesn't mean he's going to abandon aggression entirely in the mid-game, but he's not going to have the levels that he would otherwise. Zoe and Faith right now in a duo lane at top, lined up against King J playing our Enigma. And down at bottom, gonna have Ferrari on the bad side of a tri-lane.
They've actually already dropped 2 sentries, and Ferrari's in a good position. He'll be able to back out of here relatively safely and not really worry too much about it. And I'm surprised that they dropped them in such succession, because that means that now he's going to have to buy more sentries with another 200 gold down the drain just to keep him off of the creep wave. Plus, there's not really that big of a spread of vision. It does hit both sides of the lane, but if he drops another web a little bit farther forward, there's really nothing they can do to stop him from sitting in experience range.
Well, we see we have had a rotation already, and we're going to have Lanham dealing some damage and taking some damage as well. Lucky to escape most of the edict there. But Lanham has rotated to mid now. Up at top, King J going to be looking to hold his own. Faith already active in the jungle, pulling and stacking and all that fun stuff. Early CS, CK doing well. Storm Spirit not far behind. Everyone about where you would expect. And it's really all going to come down to Lanham's success here in mid. Getting to level 6 quickly, you can't overstate how important that is for a team that's built around a Naga Siren. But still, they have to execute afterwards. They have to make sure they don't squander the early advantage and that they're able to stay stable until that ult hits level 3, at which point it's a 60-second cooldown. Always up and almost impossible to do anything about.
It's not just the Naga Siren initiation either. It's the fact that they're going to have a Storm, and a lot of people really aren't used to playing against Storm in Dota 2. He's not really picked that often, but once he does get 6, his initiation range is ridiculous, and it allows you to catch people off guard. So We'll see if they can actually make that happen during the mid-game. But as far as the lanes go at the moment, I really think that it's pretty much even at this point.
Lanham going to take a Chaos Bolt and the follow-up. Lanham in trouble. QQQ's there, but not soon enough. First blood's in the books. There was a little bit of hocus pocus out of Lanham to avoid that exact combo a moment before. Second time around, though, IG able to execute, and that's exactly what they need if they want to have success against Naga early.
I'm not sure why he was playing so far forward right there. He had his bottle, and he was trying to bottle up between some attacks, but unfortunately it wasn't enough. I guess he just didn't check CK's mana to know that he was able to stun again. But now that he's back here with full HP, full mana, and of course Chuan doesn't really have any mana to speak of, YYF's quite low himself, he should be safe for a little bit longer. Getting a quick 6 is going to help him a lot, like you had mentioned, especially given the fact that IG just has a very, very strong mid-game. CK is great, Leshrac is great, plus Rasta, who's going to be getting a lot of experience top 2, and he's going to have wards once he gets level 6. I mean, they're going to be looking to try to run mid-game just as much as EHOME is.
Storm Spirit sitting on top of the CS right now, sitting on 17-11 for Morphling, who trails just behind Chen, trailing at
top
10.
lane.
And in top lane, looks like King J. Oh, wow, big Ether Shock on the backside, and there's another kill for IG. IG barely able to squeak that one out, but barely works when you're talking about picking up the second kill of the game at these early levels. And IG, this is really just quintessential IG. They are not doing anything untowardly aggressive. It's not as if they're moving around all that much. Lanham wisely going to turn around there as his IG said, nope, no room, no worries. But it's not as if they're playing utterly aggressive just by their posture. But every time EHOME gets a little out of position, they commit to getting the kill and do so with great, great accuracy.
IG is definitely getting a little bit ahead because of those 2 kills, not to mention the fact that the sentries are now down in bottom lane, which means Ferrari can basically sit wherever he wants. The supports are probably not going to be dedicating too much more money to keeping him down. Typically, you buy one set of sentries, drop one, then drop another one after the first one phase, just to put it in a nice spot where it covers a lot of area to keep the Brood off of the experience from the wave, but they can't really do that anymore, so Ferrari is still going to be getting farm, still going to be getting some levels, but on the bright side, Storm is still ahead of him at this point.
Taking a look at the CS once again, we can see Brood is kind of hanging. 7 CS, about the same as the
top lane again, King
up
J.
at top. King J, same deal. Gets a little far out. Maleficus buys him time. Faith has got an Ether Shock in 2 seconds. 1 second. Tower damage. King J, can he eat his way out? He can't. Another kill. Back in the trees. Ran out of tangos before Faith ran out of mana.
That's another kill on the board for IG, and King J already dying twice hurts him so much. Typically, an Enigma is a long laner who is very, very good at staying alive because of the fact that conversions can punish you really bad for overcommitting. But both times he's died, he's not had his conversions out, and especially when they double spawn, that's the point where you really feel safe. You can just walk them up to the wave in CS, kind of like how a Lone Druid would in a lot of cases, except you're not really restricted by that range like a Lone Druid would be. So, I mean, getting picked off twice like that, that's going to hurt him a lot. He basically can't go up off the tower anymore at this point.
Chuan and YYF seem to be moving their way down to bottom. Nope, Cat does turn around. They are going to go ahead and commit here. They're going to come out of the river, both of them, using Clarity for extra mana. But 1 net and a little bit of coarse language sends it back to mid, packing. Naga continuing to use her illusions as best she can to try and keep her farm where she wants it to be. Not doing an awful job either, given it's 2v1 and she's already died once. She's at 21, same as Zoe. So even though they have killed King J twice, his farm up at top is not all that it possibly could be.
He is a little bit behind in terms of the CS department, but you have to also keep in mind that Enigma's denying those pretty much for free. Conversion has a 35-second cooldown, so he's always able to get one basically every single creep wave. So he's essentially getting 1 less creep per spawn, which is going to hurt him as much as it's going to hurt King J for dying twice. But as long as he doesn't go down anymore, and he continues what he's doing right now, which is just denying the waves, sitting behind the tower, playing very passively, it will ultimately work out for EHOME. They really have to rely on this Naga during mid-game to get some farm, and the Storm just as much to be able to initiate team fights and get picks.
Ferrari trying to hold the bottom tower, down to about half health now. King J getting dove again, trying to run ring around the rosy. Zoe's actually going to take a Maleficus. He's taking a lot of Eidolon damage. There's going to be the waveform, and he's just going to turn to try and bang him down. So another kill goes for IG, and already, and again, this isn't a, usually when you see this early, it's 4-0, it's because there's utter domination. Naga forced to blow the ulti, to keep herself alive following the reality rift. Gonna wander herself back to safety. But this is what you call a nickel and dime lead. IG has just taken what has been given to them, which has been 4 kills. 4-0 now, and we even see the goal graph barely moving in their favor as well. So it isn't as if they've completely cracked things open from a statistical standpoint, but in terms of dominance, in terms of their presence on the map, it's 100% theirs.
The experience difference is really what matters here. Oh, Ferrari in trouble.
Ferrari gets caught out. He's going to catch a gale as well, making a run back to the lane, and he's going to be picked off. EHOME finally on the board as they pick off the Brood and bottom. Had to know that was coming at some point, as Chen had been relatively quiet throughout the majority of this early game. Now joins up with Cat and X, perhaps looking to push through to the Tier 1. It's already down to half health. In the meantime, IG anticipates that as well. Now looking to apply some pressure up here. Rasta, not quite level 6 yet. Gonna be there soon. Eidolons are there. We've got YYF hanging out near the secret shop, ready to dive as soon as Enigma comes out. In the meantime, EHOME is gonna try and trade. Ferrari is there and gets the deny. Oh, he's gonna get caught out though, drawn back by the storm. And should be able to survive, barely. Taking some damage in the meantime. IG though is gonna go ahead and take the Tier 1 top. In the meantime, Naga looking like she wants to pressure Tier 1 mid. So tower wars going on right now. EHOME has pushed through all the way to the Tier 2. Ferrari on the south side of them. It is actually going to go for the kill. Chen blows the hill, keeps himself alive. Very risky maneuver there out of Ferrari 430. Almost paid off, but great reaction out of QQQ. On the other side of the map, Edict is up. They're banging away on the Tier 2. They're going to try and bring it down. So far, we've got 2 in position to try and contest it. King J and Lanham. Lanham's been spotted. YYF moving in that direction now, scares Naga off, and that should be enough to break up the tower party. After all is done, Ferrari manages to keep the Tier 2 standing, as does King J.
Tower trading at this point doesn't really favor anyone that much, especially because it was a 1-for-1, but right now it's still 4 kills in favor of IG, and they're the ones with the momentum. As long as Zoe continues his farm, he's got 42 CS and 20 at 9 minutes, which isn't too bad. I guess it's closer to 10 at this point, but he has 2 kills on top of that, so it makes it a little bit better for him. And I think he'll probably just be looking for something like a quick Ethereal Blade, maybe even a BKB if he's feeling unsafe about the initiation range that's coming out of EHOME. I mean, they can jump on you from pretty much anywhere, and that's why we saw that Broodmother die in the bottom lane. It's just that people aren't used to the area of influence that he has.
Ooh, Cat got to be caught out and melted immediately. Smoke up from YYF, and Faith works about as well as they could hope, and X knows he's in trouble, making a run, has already taken some damage, has a full mana pool, is going to be able to ball lightning away, and yeah, it's going to be able to TP away as well, so no problem there. However, IG ready to go ahead and take this Tier 1 bottom, and you can't help but think if they had waited to push top, if they had waited until Faith was level 6 and had his wards, they may have been able to take 2. As is though, he finally is 6, and they do take another tower. Now TPing into mid. Lanham's there, as is QQQ. YYF with just enough for a Chaos Bolt gets the Ursa creep. 4 creep, hang around a little bit too long. Lanham moves in, there's a waveform. Zoe is going to be netted down, and we're going to see the engagement on him. There's that initiation range we talked about. X grabs him and gets a free kill. YYF could do nothing but look on before turning tail and running for the Tier 2.
It's another tower trade, another couple of hero kills goes out. And I mean, this game is incredibly even though IG is a handful of kills ahead and about 1,500 experience and gold, it is 11.5 minutes. So that lead isn't really insurmountable by any stretch of the imagination, especially when you have a Naga Siren at your disposal. But as far as IG goes, I mean, they've done a pretty good job of keeping up their efficient farm. The only problem is YYF only sitting on top of 31 CS, and we saw this last game when the Morphling was dual laning with the Venomancer. I mean, your farm has got to be really good if you're going to be dual laning, especially against a melee who can't really do too much to stop you during that particular phase of the game. But EHOME still staying strong, continuing to trade towers because of the fact they do have that storm. They can jump on fights that ordinarily you wouldn't be able to do. And if IG gets caught off guard too many more times, they're going to lose map control, and they're going to lose it fast.
Most of IG hooks up here in the river. EHOME moving as a small gang of 3, moving through this top corner, looking to possibly bang down the tower here at Tier 1. IG anticipates it. Faith and Schwan both in position. Lanham and Cat both rotate In the meantime, Ferrari doing what Brood does. IG Ferrari is just going to sit here. He's going to sit here all game. He's going to be happy to do this, to just apply pressure anytime EHOME turns their back, and to go ahead and farm up in the meantime. He's up to 42 CS right now, and he's going to have control of the enemy jungle, as we already see the Spiderlings doing their business. Here we go. Smoke up. Could lead him. We're going to have QQQ. 2 second. Oh, there's the black hole. Only catches one, though, and he's knocked out of it. Fate is going to be picked off. Big heal from Chen. Doesn't matter. He dies on the backside. Chuan's in trouble. Taking damage. 4-second Chaos Bolt, and the big split earth. YYF comes to Chuan's rescue. X is going to be able to TP home, but that was a beautiful combination of the Chaos Bolt and the Split Earth to keep Chuan running, hoofing it back to base.
That was like a really awkward stun followed by a really good Hex. That Split Earth just barely missed King J when he was black holing. Unfortunately, did only hit 1. He was going for 2, of course, but the Rasta able to knock him out of it. And then, why not just a 4-second Chaos Bolt on top of that?
Oh, we've got Ferrari in trouble. That long-distance initiation, he dusted as soon as he got there, but Ferrari, perhaps anticipating it, was already almost all the way back, so able to avoid disaster there. But yeah, you begin to get the impression, this guy right here, his performance is going to determine a lot of the way this game turns out. That initiation range is absolutely huge, and he's going to have to be able to make it count when it matters the most. Right there, we saw a good example of just how a small miscalculation can cost you a kill that you might have had otherwise. So, not to say he did horrible there, but that's just an example of how fine a line he has to tread between waiting for the right time and being aggressive enough to secure the kills he needs.
As long as IG continues their farm rate, they get the Morphling everything that he needs, I think during the mid-game they'll be okay. We've seen a lot of this from the Asian teams this tournament. They run the double carry, they have the CK, they have the Morphling. It's honestly becoming standard for them, at least from what I've seen throughout the International. And this is the kind of thing that they're best at. They get their farm up on one hero. If you try to stop the other, they're just going to be somewhere else getting the Morphling farm or the CK, depending on who you go for. And we're going to see another smoke up here into the woods.
IG looking for trouble. Oh, they're going to catch Lanham. 4-second Chaos Bolt as well as a Hex, and down he goes. Chen, nothing to send home but the remains. IG, and that is so key for them. Naga Siren, we haven't really seen her impact quite yet. But again, oh, now Cat in trouble, taking some damage. So is going to catch him. Blind waveform gets the job done. Must have seen what cranny he ducked into. Still had a little bit of guesswork, but got the job done. But again, we haven't seen Naga's influence quite so much. She's farmed up decently, 82 last hits at 15 minutes in. That ulti is going to be so important in the way it works with Black Hole and the initiation coming out of X on Storm Spirit. But for now, just picking her off, keeping that farm under control. Oh, hang on, speaking of, Zoe's going to be caught out, morphing the strength, tries to stay alive. YYF is there as well, 2-second Chaos Bolt and snare on YYF. Big reaction comes out. Shadow Shaman wards her down. Chuan, the last man standing, and he is going to make it to safety, just barely. So a lot of shots fired, but no bodies bagged.
The real problem with that team fight is that this entire time the Brood was bottom, and they actually just kill the tower too. So IG gets the tower bottom, they get a couple of kills middle, they pick off one of the most important heroes, which is that Naga Siren. And like we talked about before, it's just little advantages that you can get in capitalizing on mistakes, and now there's a few more coming out from EHOME that I really don't think they could afford.
Ferrari going to work here in the jungle. A little bit behind, not the best farm in history, but given that entire lane is now cleaned out in that second tier, that tier 2 tower kill we just netted, certainly going to help him get that Orchid up just a little bit quicker. And Orchid on a Brood, especially when you're talking late game against heroes that are so abilities-based, Enigma, Naga Siren, Venomancer, Storm Spirit, they really, I mean, Naga, once she gets a crazy amount of farm, gets up a heart, gets up a diffusal, what have you, she's going to turn into a right-click hero. But until then, almost all of EHOME is completely dependent on abilities and their abilities and their and how versatile and what ways they can use those to versatile ends. So with that Orchid coming up for Ferrari, that's just one more way to lock down the options that EHOME is going to have.
The thing about Broodmother that's so scary is the fact that this was a Broodmother that basically got double centuried at level 1. And now he's catching up and becoming one of the highest farmers in the game. So that's just a strength of the pick in general. And that's why I liked it so much when IG picked it up, because like we talked about, putting a Storm against a Broodmother in the first place works out okay, but eventually she's just going to get the items that she needs, and at this point, I mean, IG's only lost 2 towers, which is definitely great for them, and EHOME has lost 3 at this point, actually 4, and they're going to continue to lose them as long as they don't do anything about this Brood. If she wants to rotate to another lane, she can, but honestly, just being down here applies enough pressure to force EHOME to react anyway.
Chen, not too far from X at this point, should have it done very soon. King J, just about ready to pick up that BKB as well, not terribly far away. But really, again, it's going to be in EHOME's court. They still have Naga Siren ult, which is now level 2. The cooldown on it is not super long, not super short. Level 3 is where things become a concern. And IG has been aggressive to this point, but now they're showing a little bit of timidity, a little bit of passivity. And speaking of, hang on, Zoe's going to be picked off. And they are going to let him go. He just morphs strength, and that's fine. And that's kind of the problem you have with a Storm pickup. He relies a lot on having people around to make him effective. That was a great initiation, but on a Morphling, what do? You're just going to morph strength and walk back home or slide back home or whatever the hell he does.
That's the kind of burst damage thing that I was talking about earlier. Sustained damage against a Morphling isn't going to be enough. You either need to lock him down from the second you engage until he's dead, or you need a significant amount of burst. And since we don't see like Shadow Demon A or anything like that coming out of EHOME, Zoa is eventually going to get to a point where it's going to be really difficult to deal with him. They might just have to go ahead and kill around him, kill his supports, kill the CK maybe even, and some other things to ensure that they can take the team fight. But it's just becoming so difficult because, again, it's 2 carries versus 2 carries, but at this point, I mean, a CK in the later part of the game is going to be really, really scary because of the fact that the Storm looks like he's going for a Bloodstone first. He has the Arcane Boots, he has the Point Booster, so likely he'll just disassemble that and make his Bloodstone, then go into Treads, which does give you a lot of HP, but it doesn't really give you that much more presence around the map. It's just a utility, so you don't have to go back to base quite as much and increase durability. And IG, at this point, I mean, with YYF having a Vanguard, he's got Bracer Treads, he's going to be going for a Drum relatively soon. Their mid-game is still looking really, really strong.
Saw a smoke attempt there from EHOME, didn't quite work out. Both teams just kind of headed to opposite corners. Happy to take a quick breather before the coming Storm. Take a look at the gold graph once again, had it up a moment ago, but 4,000 gold separating these two teams. Take a look at the experience, roughly that same amount as well, and both are favoring IG at this point. But again, we've yet to really see Naga Siren's ult used. We've yet to see the way, just how powerful it can be, especially when combined with the Vino ulti and of course the Black Hole. And something you touched on during the pick ban that is so important is the fact that you don't have to wait or time it up even that particularly well. Hang on, Zoe's going to be caught out again, and he's going to go ahead and use the Ghost Scepter. YYF's there. They're grouped up. Here comes the TP reactions. Lanham has this timed up, and there we go. Oh no, finally, IG rejoins the fight. There's the Black Hole though. Catches 4, they didn't even need the Naga ult. Once picked off, Faith is gonna drop. QQQ keeping everyone alive. Zoe trying to fight it out and snare on Schwan. However, Naga drops on the backside. Here comes IG. The cat barks at the dog, and it looks like they are gonna survive in decent shape. They lost 2 for 1, but given how badly caught out they were with both the ulti and the Black Hole, not too bad a trade.
There's just not too many follow-ups that they have at the moment. I mean, they did lose the CK, they lost the Rasta, which is definitely a bummer, but it could have gone a lot worse. I mean, the Black Hole came out, but there just wasn't a whole lot of damage to come after that. They had Storm Spirit there with Max Remnant, but I mean, it's decent sustained damage, but we were talking about how you need burst people to pick off heroes, and the rest of IG was basically just able to retreat. And again, I mean, that wasn't a full 5-on-5 engagement. Ferrari hasn't left his lane at all. He has his Orchid finished, he has his Soul Ring, he's got the Treads. So, I mean, at this point, IG is still pretty far ahead in terms of overall farm and items. The Naga Siren leads the chart, but that's just because of the way that Mirror Image works with Riptide. You can basically farm every single place on the map at once. And I'm pretty sure the Naga Siren is probably going for a Linken's again, and I think I've seen him do this before.
Zoe leading the way on Roshan now. YYF is there as well. In come the Spiderlings. Faith is there. Just kind of chipping away at him. Really no good damage output whatsoever. Faith has picked up another smoke, so IG possibly looking to continue this wave of aggression. Slowly but surely, they've trickled in here. We've got 4 of the 5, make it 5 of the 5. Now with the Edict popped, they're going to be able to take this. There's no counter warding whatsoever. The only ward in the vicinity belongs to IG. And EHOME, even though they have a team that should really not have all that much of a problem engaging, especially into a Roche pit, is basically going to end up giving one away for free. Zoe's going to pick up the Aegis. He's got his F-Blade done as well. And IG, I mean, again, the Naga Siren ult was up. That was just a case of not having wards where you needed them most.
It is unfortunate they give it away to Zoe, especially considering the fact that he picked up his Ethereal Blade and he has a haste rune in his bottle for the next team fight if they choose to engage between that time. But, I mean, this is a really rough spot for EHOME. Their Storm Spirit hasn't really gotten anything else in quite a while now. His CS has fallen off quite a bit. He's only at 87. He used to be one of the leaders on the board, and over the last 10 minutes or so, he's just fallen off a lot.
And they spend a lot to take down an illusion. That's a horrible feeling. Whenever you use all your abilities, and no gold, just an illusion. In the meantime, IG has used that smoke they picked up. They've got a fresh Aegis and Ethereal Blade aching to be used. Are they going to find someone? Lanham is going to be spotted. Shotgun, there's the ulti. Lanham's just going to go ahead and TP out, and yeah, EHOME has no interest in that fight. However, this opens bottom lane up to IG. They may want to push here. The ulti is down for at least a little while. It's still level 2, so they've got 110 seconds, give or take, to try and punish that Lanham TP. We'll see if they're up to it. We've got a little bit of pressure coming out, however. QQQ in the vicinity as well. YYF and Ferrari are going to go ahead and back out. Chuan setting up shop here on the high ground, possibly hoping to catch someone coming through.
IG just doesn't feel any pressure at the moment. It's all EHOME just reacting to what they do. This is the first time I've seen EHOME move out on their side of the map, or their opponents, I should say, in quite a while. And IG's going to go ahead and just TP react to this. Latrak's already here, CK's already here, and they're just going to go ahead and get forced back almost immediately. And again, Ferrari has just been free farming the entire game. Honestly, this is the hero that they should be going for. They have a Storm. All they have to do is put dust on him. They can come down here, try to kill him, because if they can push out lanes, if they can push out mid and top, go on that Brood, ensure that he's not down there permanently making it so they have to react to that lane. It's going to help him quite a bit. Even in 4v5s, IG's been coming out even, if not ahead, in most cases, and that's just not a situation they can deal with. They have to try to get an advantage somewhere. IG's just going to run away with the game.
1,800 gold already up on the Brood. As you mentioned, the Orchids been up for a while. And yeah, that's really the story of this game. They picked themselves an unbelievably strong early to mid-game team with regards to initiation and capitalizing on positioning. And they've done next to nothing with it. Naga has basically used her ult in the majority to save herself. She hasn't been aggressive at all. And yeah, it's tough at engaging into a Latrak, into a CK. It's tough to leave a Brood lane unabandoned. But they do have those answers right now. IG, I think, is just basically smelling blood in the water. They know EHOME is showing timidity. They see it. They feel it. They know that they're being given more control over this map than they have any right to. And now they're going to punish it. And they're just going to take a tier 2 for free. There's no opposition at all coming out for this so far. Naga is going to go up. Here we go. Finally, Storm moves in. He's going to be just melted down, though. There's the heal from QQQ trying to keep the fight going. Black Hole's only going to catch one, and a whole lot of creeps, however. Off goes the exposure, and 430 banging away is going to be a big part of locking down those kills. Naga is forced to buy back. YYF pretty low, but he's still in fighting shape. He's still got a full mana pool. He used the Phantasms, but they did their job. He's still alive. IG is going to take a tier 3, most likely. Lanham almost gets one-shotted. Half his health gone from one F-Blade Blast shotgun. Tier 3 under assault. Waveform forward just to clear out the creeps. Down goes the tower. King J's moving out, but the black hole is spent. IG has nothing to fear. They can just stand here as long as they want for at least a little longer. And they are going to go ahead and decide to pull back. I'm a little surprised. I think they had a chance to take the melee racks there before any serious opposition was fielded.
Well, there's no reason to really risk losing any heroes. They do have an Aegis and 4,000 gold on Morphling at this point, so whatever item he wants to go next, could be Manta, could be BKB, doesn't really matter at this point. Zoe's actually going to get another haste turn, so that's going to help him out for the next team fight. And this is kind of what I was saying earlier. They're just getting asphyxiated by the fact that their team is based around being able to fight, and they can't fight because they always have to worry about the Brood. And when they do take team fights, they're not winning enough to make it matter. I mean, whenever you have Ferrari in the offlane pushing his wave basically to your base, you have to immediately retreat after you win a team fight. You're getting in positions where you can't even push tier 1s. I mean, the tier 1 top is still standing at this point at 27 minutes into the game, and that's just not a situation you can have happen. I know King J was up there. He was really struggling, died a couple of times in the early game, but no one really on EHOME has a presence right now. It's just basically all walking around trying to counter push.
Yeah, no, I agree completely. They feel disjointed. They feel as if they're a team looking for a plan and hoping they find one just by wandering around the map. YYF going to be initiated upon by Lanham and X both. Swinging away, but here comes the TP reaction, and Chuan is there. YYF still alive, barely. He is going to drop, but at what cost? Chuan banging away on Lanham. X is going to be caught out by Morphling on the backside, and off goes the Naga ult one more time to do nothing but save herself. Now we're going to see QQQ picked off as well. Down he goes. 17-6 the kill score, favoring IG. Taking a look at the gold. 10,000 gold separating the squads now, and IG slowly but surely whittling away at any chance EHOME has to make use of that incredibly powerful combo they picked up for themselves.
That was just a desperation move by EHOME. I mean, they have to try to make something happen soon, and they know that they're behind. I mean, there's no way that they can. It's just a matter of map control at this point, and they didn't even get a tower. They got one hero kill. They ended up losing one of their semi-carries as well, and the Chen didn't get anything out of it. Now IG can just go ahead and counter push. Naga ult is going to be down for another minute and a little bit more than that because of the fact that it's only level 2, not level 3, and IG knows it. They're going to capitalize on it once again, and Zoe has actually picked up an ultimate orb, so he might be going for a Manta, might be going for a Scotty. We'll have to see.
Lanham is actually going for a Lincoln. And, I mean, when you look at that choice in and of itself, just the choice to pick up the Lincolns, given the situation you're in, given the situation you've been in most of the game, it just feels like a flat-out mistake, to be honest. I mean, Naga usually doesn't have that much problem with survivability, or if that's really what you're worried about, build towards a heart. Even just going for the parts of a heart can give you the extra health that you need to survive these fights, but with mirror image and her ult, of course, to get her out of trouble. But then again, you don't want to be using the ult to get out of trouble. But it, to me, feels like a defensive maneuver when they're already in a point where they can't afford to be flat-out defensive anymore.
It's a really rough spot to be in regardless. The fact that she couldn't go for a farming build like a quick Radiance like we usually see or anything like that. Some people even opt to go for just pure tanky and they go Lincolns into Heart, which, I mean, yeah, it will make you relatively tanky, but at that point, you're not really relying on yourself to do damage. You're relying on the rest of your team, and honestly, EHOME doesn't have that luxury. They do need damage at this point because heroes like Morphling and Brood, who also has her BKB finished, and CK are on the other team, and they all have a tremendous amount of HP, and they do damage just because of their innate abilities. I mean, Morphling now is Ethereal Blade and Manta finished, is going to be doing a lot with his shotgun combination. CK's got Drum, Vanguard, and a Vitality booster on top of that, so he's extremely tanky. Chaos Bull and Phantasm makes up for the fact that he doesn't have to make just pure damage items. So, I mean, IG's lineup at this point just feels a lot stronger. Their mid-game is tremendous because of the start that they had. The Broodmother pick helped them out a lot, too, and we talked a lot about that, but looks like IG's going to be pushing down mid.
Roster wards are down. Glyph is popped. They want to contest this. They have to contest this. X is going to be almost brought down. Manages to survive. Uses the ball lightning to move himself about a foot out of the way. Still yet, this Rax under a lot of pressure at the moment. EHOME doing a pretty solid job of keeping it alive. There's the Lincolns and snare on Chuan. However, it's quite far out there, and IG in a good position to punish any aggression. QQQ's got to be careful. Getting out there a bit himself, and here we go, initiation. Chuan pops the BKB. X is going to be hexed. Cat stunned out. Oh, black hole, but it catches just Chuan. In the meantime, the rest of IG is just going berserk on the backside of the fight. And where was that moments ago, Lanham? BKB on Ferrari doesn't give Lanham the luxury of just TPing home this time. Zoe's there, moves in, F-Blade in 10 seconds, not going to dive it. But Naga, it seems like that's been the case all game, Draskell. When you want to use that Naga Siren ult, it's such a hard call to make a lot of the time. But they've been using the black hole as the primary ability and then just using Naga Siren to basically escape after they've already lost the fight.
It's because they know they don't have enough follow-up damage. In reality, even if they pop the ultimate and get like a 5-man black hole, the heroes on IG are so tanky at this point that it might not even be enough to take them down. Of course, they do have a lot of damage. They might be able to pick off a couple of heroes like Leshrac, who doesn't have the greatest base health. Maybe the Broodmother other, and of course the Rasta is the lowest HP out of anyone on IG, but their positioning has just been really good during these team fights. They're not going to get caught out by a black hole. Even if they get slept, the only time it's really bad is if you're A, playing against a Darkseer with a Naga, or you're standing close enough together to where King J's black hole is going to hit more than one. But now, IG is going to go ahead and try to take Roche, and with no black hole, no Naga Siren ultimate, I mean, it's going to be really tough to contend this.
48 seconds on the Naga ult. And yeah, there's pretty much nothing they could do. Aegis is going to be given away for free. Beautiful timing out of IG. Wandered into the Roche pit. Just as the big boy got his gloves up. Now, though, going to drop very quickly. Well, moderately quickly, I should say. This is not very good, but down he goes regardless. Zoe is going to be the recipient of the Aegis. And EHOME finally taking down the Tier 1 top. All outer tier towers remain at the Tier 2 level for IG. Not a single outer tier tower remains for EHOME, and that's been the case for quite a while. IG really is just, yeah, the gold graph tells the story. 15,000 gold between these two teams, 32 minutes in. Pretty big deficit to have racked up.
It is going to be really difficult for them to get their way out of this one. I don't even know if it's possible, considering the fact that Morphling has now a second Aegis with 3,000 gold in his bank. In conjunction with the items that he already has, he's just so big at this point. I mean, they're going to have to basically blow everything on just him to take him down once. Naga Siren is gone for Lincoln. He's actually picked up a Blade of Alacrity on top of that, so he's probably going for a Mantha, maybe even a Diffusal, just for the increased damage output because he desperately needs it. The problem with EHOME's lineup right now is they can't ever engage and hope to kill anyone.
Shadow Shaman has picked up the Blink as well. That just gives them more ways to mess with how EHOME wants to try and initiate. And you and I talk about it all the time. A Shadow Shaman with the Blink Dagger is freaking terrifying, man. He just shows up on top of you, and literally there's nothing you can do to get away. He's got Shackle, he's got the Hex, he can ward trap you quite easily when he wants to, once he gets the Blink, and of course the damage, which is still okay coming out of Aether Shock. So Shadow Shaman now, aside from just being a support, is going to be a force on the map as much as anyone else, especially when it comes to, say, a Chen. He can just about take out a Chen on his own to begin with. But, you know, get him running around with a little bit of a support hero in the Shrek or CK, or support from a damaging hero, I should say. And, yeah, make smoke ganks a lot easier. You can do it in much smaller numbers. IG taking their sweet time. They've got the Aegis, and they're just kind of setting up the map for what they, I think, expect to be the last push of the game.
They don't really feel rushed at the moment. It looks like Naga Siren did end up going for a Diffusal Blade, which is going to make her do a lot more damage in team fights, and like we talked about, EHOME needs that. It's just the problem is that Zoe is going to be too big. He's going for a Scotty at this point. He has 2 more ultimate orbs just kind of sitting in his stash, waiting to be delivered with the rest of his Scotty, but I don't know if the Naga Siren, even with 329 CS at 35 minutes, which is honestly phenomenal, that farm is tremendous. It just doesn't matter. And honestly, a lot of that has to do with the fact, too, that the Storm decided to go for a Bloodstone instead of something that actually gives him some team fight presence. And I brought it up a little bit earlier. It's like Bloodstone's a great item if you're looking for survivability and not ever having to go back to the base, but it doesn't give you an impact in the game. It's the same argument between going a Linken's on a Morphling and going for an Ethereal Blade. It's just that team fight presence that EHOME so desperately needed. They needed to be able to kill Ferrari early game. They needed to be able to take some team fight and hope to get enough kills out of it for it to matter, and they just couldn't do it.
Phenomenal game out of Zoe so far. 9-1-4 on the scoreboard. 4-2 for YYF. 4-1 for Chuan. Ferrari 0-1-8, but he's gotten his job done in many, many other ways. IG rattling their saber outside of the Tier 3 tower here in top lane. They're going to go ahead and move in and immediately shotgun down Chen. X taking damage now. Zoe's morphing strength, but still, you just can't kill him. 2-second Chaos Bolt. Here comes King J. Is he going to get it off? He will. He's going to get 3. Face outside of it, but just look at how tanky they are. They can't kill him. As good as it was, it just hasn't mattered. 3 seconds on the Chaos Bolt. That's a full wipe, and the GGs come out. EHOME has ended their run here in Seattle. IG has extended theirs. Fantastic play. 36 minutes, 26 kills for IG. Gold graph in excess of 15,000 right at the end. And IG continues on in their quest for the championship.
Great draft by IG. Excellent laning phase. They pretty much just won the game from the get-go. I didn't really feel like they were ever behind. They just had a spectacular performance. And of course, the manners coming out from both teams, very, very nice to see, shaking hands. Good stuff here at the International, but I mean, yeah, just very, very solid game by IG.
That game's in the books, but we got one more on the way. DK going to be taking on Zenith coming up next. In the meantime, let's throw it back to the analyst desk and let them tell us what happened.
All right, then. So congratulations to IG. They will be moving on a guaranteed top 4 in the tournament. What are you laughing at? What's going on?
He has something on his pants.
It's not exactly what he meant to say.
Bruno.
That's not. That's what he
Let me tell you about the birds and
you
the
right
bees.
there, Gods? You doing good?
I'm good.
Gods is doing well.
You guys up next.
Gods is Grant is trolling off camera.
We're being heckled. We're being heckled now.
We're being heckled by Grant.
Okay, so IG were able to. That's my name, by the way.
Yeah.
That's thank you very much.
Nice
really
name.
appreciate that. I don't remember. Yeah, I am 2GD. But yeah, there we go. IG actually do beat out EHOME. I wouldn't say it was an upsetting kind of finish in terms of how they performed in the tournament so far, because IG really showed much more dominance over the whole tournament as a whole. I said whole twice. But there we go. So EHOME, unfortunately, last year's runner-up, won't be able to move on. But 5th, 6th, not bad.
Yeah, I mean, it's a decent placement. I mean, I think coming into the tournament, if you told any team, hey, you can finish in 5th, 6th, how would you feel about that? I think most teams would say, yeah, that'd be great. I feel like EHOME are one of the few teams that, even though they haven't been playing spectacularly well, I think they wanted more.
Yeah, and to me, it came down to the lane stage there. IG ran those 2 dual lanes, which made sure they won at least 2 of those lanes, both top and mid lane. They had a dual lane versus solo hero. They found themselves just in that snowball effect, which Draskell talked about towards the end of the game. They never really looked like they were behind, and the lead they had just kept getting bigger and bigger.
One thing that I found really interesting, actually, is for most of the last, 4 months of EHOME, I believe, PCT has been playing the Storm Spirit literally every single time. X, obviously one of the most famous Storm Spirit players of all time. He's world famous for his Storm Spirit. But they've really built a strategy and a team where PCT plays the Storm Spirit. And anytime you change it up, even if you have a player who's phenomenal at it, it really hurts the team strategy, and it really hurts the team strategy. And we kind of saw it here as he had a bit of a rough time. He ended up going 1-5-5 despite being literally like the best Storm Spirit player in the world.
Yeah, I was talking to just off camera at 1437, and he just basically said that EHOME X, who played the Storm Spirit, is probably really disappointed with his performance that game, because he was expected to do a lot more down at the bottom. He was expected to kind of open up the lanes, and when they lost control of the map, he said it's not even Morphling that's the problem, it's the whole team is now going to get constant farm, and you could literally see him just climb up the graph, IG, in terms of net worth. We're going to go to an interview, I do believe. I hope it's a winner's interview, to be informing you correctly, so let's find out.
好，各位观众朋友们，大家好，我是精灵啊。那周的话还是没有从刚才的比赛中，应该还在享受刚才那场比赛一个沉思的表情。那么来自于 IG 战队的周神，你好。
大家好，我是来自 IG 战队的周。
那么其实，在刚刚结束的一场比赛中，我们发现 IG 是很快的找回了状态。同时呢，我们也是看到 Navi 战队他们找回状态的速度也是非常快的啊。那 IG 是怎样来调整失利之后的一个心态呢？
我们赛后进行了讨论跟分析，然后包括输的加上备战EHOME，我们也讨论了很久。
好的。那么周刚才的水人可以说是发挥非常非常的出色。那么同时我们也是看到，在之前与EHOME对阵的那场比赛中，对手也是选择了相近似的蜘蛛加上水人体系。他们没有赢，但是作为 IG 战队，你们是获胜了，能给我们分析一下获胜的原因吗？
感觉他们的可能这种水人蜘蛛双核打得没有我们好吧，然后对面有一个非常肥的小，所以他们比较难打。
好了，那么再次恭喜一下 IG 战队的周神取得这场比赛的胜利。好，那也是希望 IG 战队的接下去的比赛中能够一帆风顺。Back to James.
Thank you, Anderson. And also, yeah, it's really good to see that IG weren't phased after their loss. I was a little bit worried about that because they lost to Na'Vi, dropped down. EHOME had a great game, obviously bringing in Tiny and playing fantastically. So the momentum here in the tournament could have really swayed that game. But IG stayed strong and stayed true. And we could take a look at a couple of the moments that were really good. I do believe we're going to go to some of the final moments where the GG was called.
Yeah, this is just IG really ending the game here. I really like that they actually banned the Tiny at the beginning of, or during the ban phase, kind of removing that strategy from EHOME, because EHOME has really been using it a lot. And IG stuck to their stadium strategy, and it went really well.
Yeah, we can see here, I mean, at this point in the game, it is pretty much right before the GG call. Zhou is already big enough that he can do whatever he wants. Even with King Jade landing a decent BKB Black Hole, there's nothing EHOME can do. They don't have the damage to back it up. And that came down to Naga Siren going for that Lincoln Sphere build. And Storm Spirit just not having too many items. He went for that Bloodstone first item, and it just didn't really pay off.
Yeah, he's really got to be their map dominance hero through the mid game, and he really just didn't do that. It didn't execute well. No, CK got very tanky. Broodmother got pretty fat. When you're a Storm Spirit, you really need to keep the opposing team down. Your window of opportunity to really control the game is really, it's about 20 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes in the mid game, and if you don't do that, you're pretty much a useless hero.
All right, then, Bruno, anything you noticed?
What?
Oh, sorry, I was just asking you.
Yeah,
like,
no,
did you notice
I did notice something. It's just the delay. I can't hear you very well. Something interesting. I've watched Anderson doing extra hours, so I did some math here. And I saw that Tovi, whenever he casts, he's 5-3 on 5 China teams winning. Lumi is 5-5. But AC, whenever he casts, he's 7-2 for China teams winning. So it's confirmed AC is secretly a Chinaman.
So if you're like the leader of IG or LGD, you need to pay off the guys at Valve to make sure that
IG have quite a bit of money as well.
Yeah,
so
I feel like IG
need
to invest a little bit of that $1 billion.
The tournament organizers of Valve and
you can probably buy IC
shares
as a final caster.
All right, yeah, absolutely. All right, then, so we're going to be getting ready to go into the next game, which is DK versus